Hey guys and girls, Board now back with you. On this video I will be talking about the fourth episode of the Netflix Icelandic show Katla, and the episode is called This Is Not Him, so full spoilers from the start as always. So we've reached the halfway point of this series, at least. Maybe my least favourite episode so far, just because it, I guess, feels like that sort of middle of the season episode where it's maybe slowing down the plot a bit, and this wasn't as info as intriguing, and I guess there were just small little things which felt like being dragged out a little bit just for the sake of it, just because you have to fill so many sort of hours of TV, or well, Netflix in this case. But just one or two little things where the pacing was maybe a little bit off, but it's still solid. I mean, I can't really say it was bad. I do have one sort of complaint which I'll get to, but I'll talk about, I guess, the main focus of the episode and where the title comes from. This is not him, and that is, of course, the boy who mysteriously has shown up, and obviously Mikkel, his name is, and like Daryl, however you say the name, who's the scientist who was looking after him in secret. And the sort of cliffhanger from the last episode is then the boy contacted his mother, who was obviously surprised to hear his voice because he'd been assumed deaf. And this episode focuses a lot on that and revealing some stuff. And actually, I think there's some great stuff in that side of the plot. I think that's the strongest stuff in the episode. So obviously the mother, who's very frantic, contacts Daryl, and she's like, "What's going on?" Mikkel. I think Mikkel's the boy's name. He contacted me, and what's going on? Because essentially she thought he was dead. Now I think at first it's maybe natural to assume that he's one of the ones from the volcano, although as things go on in the episode and then they reveal things, it turns out that maybe he's not, but but they agreed to meet anyway at like the hotel, and Daryl says yes, I'll bring him so he sort of confirms that he is with him. He has the boy, and I will say also great acting from the actor playing Daryl, like his reactions on the other end of the phone. I think there's kind of people around, so he's trying to keep it under wraps, but also just his sort of angst on the other end. And I think what this episode does really well is just creating this element of doubt about what the hell's going on. Why is he here? How is he still alive? Dynamic between him and Daryl and his mother, and them as sort of a family unit, but also showing how Daryl's like really reluctant in a way, how he's basically a non-believer. Now, one of the things that I was a bit uncertain about, which I think they deliberately sort of left open last episode, is Daryl like this boy's father? And it turns out that he is. Now, I'm not quite sure why, because he seems to be like there was some sort of like uncertainty about that, or why in that case he wouldn't just be like happy to see him. He wouldn't just take him to see the mother. And I think that sort of gets explained in this episode, and it's because he has doubts over whether it's really the boy. So we find out a little bit more about the past and about how the son got into trouble, how he started setting fires, and we see instantly that there's a contrast between the parents, where the mother was very supportive and very protective of him, where she would actually cover up for him and protect him, whereas the father was more in favour of, no, he's got to face up to his responsibilities, all that. But we just see a different perspective where the father Daryl is much more negative towards the son, and much more of a cynic. And obviously, I think it's partly the thing that the mother wants to believe that, hey, no, I've missed my son, and if he's back, if he's somehow alive, then that's great news. I mean, let's just be positive. Let's move forward as a family. And obviously, Daryl is much more skeptical. And I think part of that is obviously because of the past. If he was a more negative sort of approach he took to the whole fire thing, but that's actually quite a nice reveal. The fact that it appears as though the boy, in the end, he got killed by a fire. One of the fires he set, I'm assuming, is what they're saying, but. Yeah, the whole drama with them I thought was really strong in this episode. That there's some gems in the casting because also the Mikkel's mother I thought was really good. That actress was very expressive and very good performance from her. Also, so some strong stuff on that side of the plot. I mean, going over to the sister side of the plot. I mentioned this last episode that Grimmer's boyfriend was kind of being a bit of a douche about Asia, and I think that's my weakest side of this episode is that they do take that a bit further, and it just grates too much and becomes a bit annoying, and it's just like, well, they're just doing it to create like forced sort of drama, because he sort of comes out within this episode at one point to Azure where he just says, I was mad with you back then because it seems like my relationship with your sister was defined by you. It seems that if things were going well with you too, then things went well with us. But on the other hand, if things didn't go so well, they didn't go so well with us. And he was blaming her for that and saying all those nights you were away, because we sort of found out in the first episode or the last episode that she sort of had a habit of sleeping around. And yeah, he just put that all on her, and it just makes him an even more unlikable character than he already was. Because obviously, in a way, depending on the circumstances originally, you couldn't necessarily blame him if he was down on Azure because of that. But now, when she's only just come back and there's all this emotion, and obviously Grimmer wants to get to the bottom of it, then to be really douchey and nasty about her now, it's I mean, it's just in poor taste, and it makes him even more unlikable. And it would help if he was a more interesting character, but I don't think he is. He's just a bit of a one note, like sort of whiny sort of douchebag at this stage. So that stuff was the weakest, really. I think the stuff with the sisters again was pretty good. Obviously, I like their dynamic a lot. Um, but one of the things that happens is then Azure sort of has this memory about seeing, not Azure, sorry, Grimmer has this memory of seeing Azure in a shed. And for some reason, because of this memory, gets it in her mind that she might have been abducted from the shed, even though that doesn't make that much sense because of course the whole she was lost at the volcanic site. So in any case, the episode sort of builds to them searching around the shed, and they like go digging, and at one point they find a bit of clothing which is kind of in the soil, and they just, because they can't really all the way down, so they decide to go around the back, and they sort of start digging like underneath, just freaked out at something, and it's because she's found something, and then Grimmer goes in and they find another body, and it's a man's body. Now I couldn't really cotton on to if it was someone who we've meant to have seen before. I'm assuming maybe not, but obviously it was enough to freak Asher out, and I guess them both out. But that's how the episode ended. So that's obviously quite an intriguing little sort of the next episode. So we'll see where that goes. And it was mostly a solid episode, and I think the stuff with the doppelgangers he was dragging a little bit. It was still pretty good stuff. Again, there's sort of this whole four thing because the younger version of Hilrid discharged from hospital, and she's like insisting that she's no relation to the other woman, the other version of herself, if you like, just to keep it simple. And they're sort of doing this whole thing of that both is sort of denying that they have anything to do with each other, and that it's just a coincidence that they look a lot like each other, and they've got the same name, and obviously this link to four, all the rest of it. But it sort of builds to this thing where one claims that she walked in on them like years ago, and they do this kind of like double bluff where it's hard to tell who they're talking about, because Four, as is revealed, was having an affair with the older Herod, if you like, the older doppelganger, all those years ago, and he was married at the time. So it seems like it's this double bluff sort of thing where it seems like from the point of view of the older Herod, then she's kind of saying, well, no, that was us. We were having an affair and your daughter walked in on us. But then the younger one is saying, no, it was us. I was having an affair with you. So it's pretty clear then, as far as they're both concerned, that then there's no relation, and that they're the one who was seeing like Four, and Four just says, well, when I saw this other woman, this younger woman, then she just reminded me of you. I'm still not sure if he's like confessing to like having a thing with her or not, because in the last episode I noticed that he didn't like sort of own up to that. But in any case, it's obviously clear that both women are convinced that they were with him and not the other one. So obviously something is at foot, and it's still to be revealed. So there you have it. That's the episode. That's Katla. So thanks for listening. I will be back in the next 2 or 3 days with the next episode. Let me know your thoughts on the series, or on this episode, if you have thoughts, if you've watched it. Like and subscribe as always. Share me out on social media. That will help a lot. You can also ding the bell on YouTube, which will let you know when I go live, either on a live stream or like a new video goes up. But other new sort of TV shows I'm doing at the moment is I've just started on season 4 of The Handmaid's Tale, so I've done episode 1 of that. If you're a fan of that show, you can check that out. But thanks for listening. See you guys again soon.